Welcome, welcome. We're back with
Hello.
another episode of the Gothic Heart. Today's guest is DL Blade, and this is an exciting episode because I actually know her personally. I've actually known her since our kids were very little and before she was an author. So, this is a very exciting episode to bring you. She writes paranormal, fantasy, adult, dark romance novels. So, completely fits in with all of our interests here. And I was even lucky enough when she was first becoming an author to test read her initial books. So, she's come so far since then, and there's so many cool things since then, and just skyrocketing. So I'm so glad she agreed to be here, and I will let her introduce herself. So go ahead and take it away.
Yes, so I'm Dio Blade. I first started writing young adult novels, which is the debut novel that Emily read, which was The Dark Awakening. And since then, I've now turned to only strictly adult novels with spice. And it's definitely been quite a journey for me to go from, it's like the evolution of Dio Blade from where I started to where I am now. And yeah, now I'm doing ones that aren't necessarily with magic that's coming out this fall. And I'm hoping to just kind of keep doing a couple, 2 to 3 books a year.
Which is incredible. I remember, I mean, back in the 90s, my favorite authors, you'd have to wait like 2 years between books. So I'm always in awe at how fast you can put out books. But since you brought it up, how you went from young adult to adult, I know that
Yeah.
was a very strategic move. Like, can you explain why?
Yes. So when I first started writing, what I read was in adults. I grew up in a very religious household, and it was one of those things where I felt ashamed to read anything other than YA. Then I read my first dark romance, and I'm like, okay. And it was around the time that I my faith. So that was like such a big part of it, where I was like, okay, I'm not going to feel ashamed for reading something that I love. So when I started reading that, it sparked those ideas of I need to be writing it. And so I wrote my first adult one, which was The Sea of Zamira, which is my first fantasy series. And I wasn't even a fantasy reader. I just loved pirates. And I thought, what if I took this pirate story and brought in elves and fairies and sirens and brought this whole magical realm to it? And since then, I just couldn't go back to YA. In fact, not only did I not go back to YA, but I took my debut series, which was The Dark Awakening, The Dark Underworld, The Dark Deliverance, which was the YA, and did a rewrite of adult. So I actually had 2 series of that world so that, a mother can read it with her teenager. So now you have, and I didn't like unpublish the YA one. I kept it out there. So now there's like 2 versions of the same story for different audiences.
Which is wild. I mean, I think it's great. It's just, I, I mean, me personally, I can't even imagine writing one book, much less rewriting 3 for a new audience. So, I mean, I totally understand why you did it, and especially with the spice, romance, adult
Yeah.
novels being really more open and available and talked about nowadays. So, I mean, it's a great way to get in there. And then again, that's what you're enjoying writing now too, right? So
Yes.
it's really cool that you're able to bring that. And I love that you have a pirates one. I mean,
Yeah.
pirates are always, I mean, maybe not pirates in general, but just the lore and the romance of, high seas and pirate ships and the skulls and everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so fun. Okay, so let's talk. Okay, so you left because a lot of the things we talk about are, either switching up careers or changing your life to fit what you personally need based on your interests and stuff, even though it may not have been what other people find interesting or are accepting about you. So I know that that was part of the story of how you came about in doing this. So I'd love for you to share that with everybody.
Yeah, no, I've always hated working for people. And so I would say probably since I was 18 years old, I always wanted to just work for myself. And so I seeked out careers that I wouldn't have to really, have to work for somewhere else. So it was massage therapy. I started off doing that. And then I got my real estate license. So when I moved to Colorado from California, I got my real estate license out here, but I also did not see my family. I was working until sometimes 9 o'clock at night, and it was just constant go, go, go. But I'm a reader. That's my hobby. I always had a book, whether it's in my hand or in my ear. And I have so many ideas. And so when I published The Dark Awakening, it was something where I just did it as a hobby. I was like, okay, this, in my mind, I didn't believe in myself enough that I could actually publish this book. I didn't know even where to start. So I was selling homes while writing this book as a side hobby, I guess, at the time. And I had no time to do it. It took me probably 8 years just to even, not even 8 years, honestly, like 5 years to just create this story. And then finally I was like, this is what I love. This is what I want to do. And I have to be confident enough to get an editor, get a cover designer, and actually put it out in the world and not care what people think and just put out the story that started off in a dream that ended up on paper. And in fact, it was one of those things where like, you have this dream that's so detailed and you will forget about it if you don't write it down. And that's what it was. I'm going to write this dream down. And so I wrote it down and it turned into a story. And not only did it turn into a story, but I booked a flight. My husband was deployed at the time. And I went out to Salem, Massachusetts, because it was like where Salem, Massachusetts and East British Island. And so I wanted to do all the geographical research and make sure that I had never been to those places before. And I wanted to really see what I saw in my head. And it was exactly what I saw in my head. And I was like, okay, I need to finish this book. So I'm in the hotel. I didn't even have a laptop. I just had a pen and paper. And I just wrote as much stuff down. And I came back and I told my husband, he was just getting back from deployment. And I said, I understand that real estate is bringing in a lot of money, but I am not happy with it. What I want to do is take this story and I want to put it out into the world so that people can read it. But the only way I'm going to have the time to do it is if I hang my license and write full time. And that's exactly what I did. So I hung my license and I reached out to my clients and I said, I'm going to refer you to a friend of mine. And I just did it and I put it out there and I decided not to go through traditional publishing because one of my favorite series was The Vampire Diaries. And if anybody who knows The Vampire Diaries know that the author was basically fired from her own series based off the contract that she had with her publisher. And I didn't want to have someone to control my cover. I didn't want to have someone to control where I wanted the characters to go. I wanted to have full control of my book. So I self-published, and the only way that I did it was connecting with other authors and say, how do I do this? Please don't gatekeep. I need help. And it really was just, I put myself out there and I did it. And I published The Dark Awakening in 2018. And it has been an incredible journey since.
God, so many more books and festivals and book
Yeah.
signings. I mean, you're all over the country. It's been really exciting just to follow your journey. I know when you just talked about how you had reached out to other authors to figure out how to do that, that's something I've mentioned it in other podcasts before, but I was just a guest on a podcast talking about that, how entrepreneurship can be so lonely, and finding a group of like-minded individuals that have had your experiences that can tell you, like, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like, hey, here's some recommendations, or this is what I did, at least give you a starting point, right? So I love that you brought that up for just really anyone in entrepreneurship or anything. So you don't have to go through it alone in this day and age with the internet and
Right.
groups and things that we can find. And gosh, could you imagine 20 years ago, like you're like in the Yellow Pages editor, and calling them, right? So it's good to take advantage of that. I mean, I do too. I do jewelry groups and business groups, because they help in different ways. Just if people are more successful than me and have done it, right? Just like with you, like they're going to have advice. They're going to have people that help, or they're going to have new ideas. And more brains are better than one. So I love that you said that too, because it's funny.
Well,
I was just talking about that.
Facebook alone, you just go and you type in, author group, and there are hundreds of them, and everybody shares their advice, recommendations of editors and cover designers, and what events are going on, and throughout the world, and people just connect that way. And I have found the bestest of friends that I have not even met in person, just people that I have connected with online who we just chat all the time with and have that connection and share ideas. And like all of the illustrators that I had for all of my books have been recommended by other authors, or that I've seen their stuff pop up on Instagram. And it's like a family. Like you have they're going to be the quickish ones, and they're going to be the ones that just kind of do their own thing. And I think everybody's going to have their own journey with this. I am open to anyone who wants to be my friend in the industry, because as much as I think this fall, I'm going to have my 12th book out. As much as I feel like I have enough experience, there's always gonna be that part of me that's like that imposter syndrome. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Am I really an author? And then when I connect with people
Yep.
that feel that same way, I'm like, okay, you get it. Like you have the same kind of
Totally.
struggles that I am going right now. And we all agree, stay off the review side, stay off stuff that really discourages us from, doing what we really want to do and how we want to brand ourselves as an author, as an indie author, which is huge. I've never done the traditional stuff, part of it,
Mhm.
that I don't even have a device for, because I've never gone that route. I've always been an indie author. And to me, I feel like I'm at that point where if another author reaches out to me and says, hey, I've got this book, I want to publish it, what do I do? Let's Zoom for an hour and I will give you all the advice that I have and share everything. I'm okay with that. No one has to pay me for that. I will show you how to upload it online. I will show you what programs I use. I format all my own books. I have learned so much that I wish there was someone at that point, 8 years ago, that said, hey, Blade, this is what I did, because I've made a lot of mistakes. I've wasted a lot of money on stuff that didn't work. And if I had someone at that
Yeah.
moment that don't do that, do this instead, I would have saved a lot of money and time to do where I am today anyway.
I could not agree more. Same with you. Like when you're having those imposter syndromes, or you're having a bad day, or you're thinking you should give up because what are you doing? And then you see other people going through that same thing, and it's just part of the process.
Right.
And I'm the same way. Like I didn't make this all up from scratch, right? Yes, I may have found my certain people or whatever, but it's not. I didn't reinvent the wheel. Like there's no reason I can't share with you all the same stuff. So I love that. That's how you do it, because I don't understand. There are some people, when I share something, like, oh, thank you so much. Like, what? And I'm like, what? You asked me a question, I answered, like, it's no big deal. But it is a big deal, because some people would refuse.
Yeah.
So I love that for any authors or aspiring authors out there listening. Like, Blade's gonna hook you up. You got some connection. She's been
And
through
it's
it, right?
and like I look at this like this. It's not like you're like, okay, the home that I'm going to live the next 20 years, I'm competing with the next person selling their house. That's not it. Look how many books I have behind me right now. As a reader, I will go through 50 books a year. You are not competition with other authors. If someone loves your book, they're going to love this other author's book. If someone is more successful from you, learn from them instead of being jealous for them. There is a reason why they are where they're at right now. See what they're doing right and learn from it so that you can do it in your own career.
Yes. Yes. I love this. I don't even need to talk. You're saying all the things that I would say. Yes, I agree. But I also don't want to skip. I mean, we're talking about entrepreneurship and stuff, which is 100% applicable. But I also don't want to skip the topics and the spiciness and the characters and types of paranormal things that you've got going on in your novels, because we're all fans of, supernaturals and things like not. I mean, I was talking about the show. I was talking about supernatural things. And so, most of the world loves reading. So let's hear about what you've brought in and why, and like, what kind of research did you do to make it, to make your books more authentic?
Of course. So we'll just kind of like back up to 2000. I think it was, well, I published in 2018. So we'll say 2016. So I've always, and you know this, I love vampires. I love vampires. I love witches.
That's how we connected so well.
Myself, it is my world. My whole house has Gothic decor. I have a black wall. Like it's something that I love. And so when I had that dream, I dreamed I was a witch. And so that was like the spark of this idea for the story for the Dark Awakening. And when I decided to write it, the story came in. Okay, so it's not just witches, it's also vampires. And I wanted to bring in this darkness. Though it's YA, there's still violence. There's still this like gore of vampires. So in order to do that, I needed to go to Salem, Massachusetts. And if anybody has never been to Salem, Massachusetts, it is such a um, it is another world. Like, if you do the history of the Salem witch trials, we know they were not real witches. They were women in power, the women who had land, and they were killed by the Christian religion back then. And it is a horrible, sad story. And so when I came into this, I said, I need to do this the right way, not have really like these real people, but create this story based off it. And so when I went there, I wasn't aware of a lot of this. And so I did the tours and I talked to real witches where they're like, okay, so when Bewitched came out, they did a lot of filming out there, and real witches came and settled out there and started their businesses and brought this whole like world to the city. And so that to me was so amazing because I'm now talking to people who do witchcraft and to really put myself in there and learn the actual history of what happened, but then create this fictional story where we know it's fiction. We know that it's not about real people. This is just a story that I created with Mercy and Caleb and Dorian and the origin of what happened with her. And it ended up going from one story to a complete trilogy. And to me, just putting myself in this like spooky little world and being there and going to these witch shops, it really saw a whole new light that I was unaware of. Like, I had no idea. So if anybody like has never been over there, I highly recommend doing it and doing the witch tour that's by the Crow Haven witch shop out there. But yeah, it was such a fascinating thing to just kind of go in there. And then the city itself, where Mercy is from, is East Greenwich, Rhode Island. And it's a small little town. And I remember telling my husband, I said, in my head, I have this city called Greenwich. And so I wanted to make up a place that didn't exist because I was like, I don't want to do something wrong and mess up how this world looks. So I looked into a map and there was an East Greenwich, Rhode Island. And I was like, I got to go over there now. So I told my husband, I said, I'm going to fly over there. So I went over there and it was exactly how I pictured it. Small little town. There's a main street. There's a park. That's like a huge park, Goddard Park. It was exactly how I saw it. I'm walking through it and I'm going, was I inspired somehow to do this? Like, it was really crazy. So I ended up going into this doggy shop. It was like, had like, colors and, all the like things outside of dog food. And I was talking to this woman about what I was writing and said, come on, you're just kind of like doing my research. And she goes, it's funny that you mentioned vampires because there's this known vampire that died years ago that kids from the local high school always like try to find the grave. And if there's like a folklore of vampires in this city, and it was the craziest thing. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? So I ended up
It was a
like,
sign.
it was so weird. I was like, okay, so it all is all coming together. So I just came back and I put this I finalized the story and I got an editor and I got everything and I said, this is what I want to do. And when I first started doing when I first published, I said, I'm just going to do vampire stories. And then of course pirates came on, because I love pirates too. And so it went somewhere else. Now I wrote a spin-off of that series, which is more dark romance. And it's much, much spicier. Because again, I had to take a YA book, a young adult book, and turn it spicy. But it didn't start out that way. So I had to find ways to make it, appeal to the adult reader. But now I'm starting as like dark, dark romance with this other one, Shadow Lemon. But how that
So
one
what is
can-
the difference? Sorry,
the
just real
difference
quick.
is-
What is
yeah,
the difference
so when you
between
have
dark romance?
So each book has dark elements, but dark romance meaning the romance itself is going to have dark elements. You're going to have a morally
Gotcha.
gray guy. You're going to have, you can have stuff like Stockholm syndrome, kidnapping, jealous, possessive guy.
Got it.
For Dorian, is not like that in Stop, Taken, and Hunted. Now there's going to be the obsessed villain who's obsessed with her, Maurice. Maurice. You're going to have that part of it. Now, if you read the adult one, there's definitely an expansion of how he is with
Got
her.
it.
But the romance itself, he adores her into the point where he treats her, it's never dark. Like he is a vampire, but it's this pure, beautiful love. Whereas dark romance, you're going to have a jealous possessive, you're going to have the hand of the throat, you're going to have a lot of aggressiveness.
Gotcha.
So that is going to be more with Fate of a Blood. Now, CM Locke, who is my co-author of that one, she originally was my editor for that series. And I had always wanted to do a spin-off from that series based off a character from that. And originally was a different character, and then it got changed in my last minute. It changed. But I've always seen other authors co-write with other authors. And I was like, how do they do it? How cool is that though? And so I reached out to her and I said, and we're really good friends. We've known each other for years. She was a friend of my husband's when they were in high school, and we met at my husband's wedding. And she was the editor. And I said, hey, I said, would you like to write a book with me? So I always know that she wanted to write a book. I said, what if we wrote a book together? What if you did the project? Because she knew I was going to do a spinoff. I said, what if you write this with me? And she was like, hell yeah. So it was such a cool experience to bring her onto this. So we wrote Shade of a Blood Moon together. Like people, like if I wrote a book, if I wrote a chapter, I would send it to her. She added her word count. She'd write a chapter, send it to me. I'd add my word count to it. So every chapter is both of us. All the characters are both of us. And so we wrote that together, and it was my first dark romance, which is basically what I read now. I just read strictly dark romance. And it was so fun that I said, okay, I want to, that's how I want all of my books to be. I'm just going to write dark romance from now on. But by doing that, I don't want a dark romance reader to read that and then go and pick up Dark Awakening and be like, oh, this is for like a 14-year-old. So I ended up changing on the cover and what you see on Amazon to Diana B. Lynn, which is my second pen name. And so that is now attached to my YA series. So all of my
Okay.
adult books are DL Blade, and then that one. So people will say, okay, what has Diana B. Lynn on it? I'm going to know that that's the YA series. And again, Doc Taken Hunted, it's not technically dark romance, even though there's some darkness to it. But everything from here on out is going to be dark romance. And that's where I wanted to go with my writing and my career. And I don't see myself going back to anything other than that.
Yeah, it's like you're finding, and that's exactly what happens, I think, to any entrepreneur, where they start where they think they should, right? Or
Yeah.
where it feels right, but you evolve and grow. And I mean, and this is where you're going now, which is I think it's so cool. I mean, I could never write a whole book, so I'm very impressed, but I think it's so cool that you get to create this world, right? And you
Yeah.
get to decide what powers or not I can't even think of not powers, things that harm them. I can't think of the right word. In each sort of the fairies, the vampires or whatever. So how did you decide what properties or what you were going to do, or your continuity? Does it flow throughout all the books, or do they all have the same kind of properties? Like, are they all like, do you even
Yeah.
understand my question? Okay,
Yeah,
good.
no, I do. No,
Just keep
I think for
babbling.
me, in a random question, I feel like for me, I'm a mood reader. So I can read something that has specific tropes, and I don't necessarily have to have the same tropes for the next one. And so when I write my books, I want to make sure I have such a variety of themes and tropes that they're not always going to be the same. Now, of course, the characters, Mercy's going to be the same throughout the entire series. But let's take example, the Sea of Zamira. The Sea of Zamira is a continuation. Each book is a continuation of the same story, and you still have to read it in order. However, I'm going to give that reader that loves a variety of tropes that's in that mood reader a completely different variety of those tropes per book in that series. So that you're not getting bored of the series because it's the same kind of things throughout that. So you've got Nola and Lincoln, which are the couple in the first one. It's not instant love where they're automatically in love, but they are automatically attracted to each other. They're going to have what breaks them down throughout it. They're going to have the things that pull them apart. But eventually it's that first attraction. They don't hate each other in the beginning. But then you have book 2, and you have Elijah and Janelle, who hate each other. So now you've got enemies to lovers part in there. And then you have book 3, The Empress of Fire, which is the sapphic romance between Maisie and Kaylee. And it was my first sapphic romance, which was as a bisexual woman in a heterosexual relationship. So again, you're going to have 3 completely different couples with different tropes that are all going to come together for this final trilogy. And again, each book that I write is going to give the authors, what mood are you in for right now? You can say, okay, what what book do you recommend, DL Blade? And I'm going to say, well, what are you in the mood for? And I'm going to have something for all of it. Okay, if you're not in the mood for spice, I'm going to recommend my way one. If you're in the spice, I've got vampires, I've got witches, and then I have pirates and fairies and elves and sirens, and then I've got werewolves. I want to make sure that I'm bringing readers a variety of stuff depending on what you're looking for at that moment.
No, that's good. That makes perfect sense. And I'm the type of reader where it almost like is hard for me to start a new book when I don't know like anything about it. So I like that like yes, it's going to be a completely new story, but I'm still going to have some continuity underneath. Like I'm still going to know some of those characters or things because it's going to be a lot easier for someone like me to get started or to keep going. I mean, getting started will be the first part, but I mean, I won't have a problem continuing on, right? Because I'll be like, oh, I already know some things. Like I already know it's going to be good. I already know this about it, right? Versus not knowing anything. So, um, and I know, so you've had a bunch of trilogies, right?
Yeah.
Is there any, and then is the Shade of a Blood Moon, are we going on a trilogy on that one as well, right?
That one's going to be a trilogy. And then another book that I am going to be also co-writing with CM Locke is the first non-magical book, which is Hidden Hallmarks. And it's a dark romance about an escaped convict who goes after the woman who put him behind bars, which is his fiance, who he was forced to get engaged with based off their mafia family. So it's a little bit
it's like a
more
crime
unique.
novel too.
Yeah, and it's going to have more of unique. So I read a lot of mafia books. This one I wanted to be a little bit different. So I had plotted this book out about a year ago. And because I enjoy so much writing with Locke, I said, write this one with me. Please write this one with me. I have everything has been plotted out, but we can change it as we go if we need to, depending on where our minds go, because that's how we work together. Like, what about this? Oh, and what about this? And what about this? You know, we talk every day and we work so incredibly well together. And so my idea was to have her family, which is a family of coders, and his family, who is a family of artists and tattoo artists, painters, and they combine their families together to create codes within the art piece, whether it's on a tattoo or in a painting, to hide the secrets of corrupt politicians in the criminal underworld. And so it was something that was different. I have never seen that. I've seen mafias that were guns or human trafficking or something, and I wanted something different. I love tattoos. I love tattoos, and it's really cool to have my husband's a gamer and he's a IT person. So I'm like, let's come back to do, you know, art and coding and computers. And so yeah, it's going to be a standalone. So if somebody who doesn't like series, again, whatever mood you're in for, I've got something for you. So,
well, and it's so interesting. It's not going to have any paranormal, but also, can I have dibs on the movie rights for that one?
Yeah, you got it.
I'll figure it out when the time comes. Well, wow. So, how are you writing multiple books at a time? Like,
I don't know how I do it.
That's wild to me.
I have two small children, but they're going to school next week, so I'll have more time to do this.
I can't even like read two books at the same time.
What was that?
I was like, I can't even read two books at the same time. Like, I have to be all in and all in. I can't imagine writing two. That's incredible.
Well, and it's not just writing two, but it's writing two that are completely different from each other. You know, I was writing The Empress of Fire, which is the third book in a fantasy series, third person, limited, while writing with CM Locke, Shade of a Blood Moon, first person modern day. So it was completely, and while my kids were like, you know, I have two ADHD kids, it's and 4 loud dogs. It is tough, but I am fortunate in the position right now where my husband works full time, where I don't have to work outside the house with a second job. And so I do this full time where I'm at the home. He works from home too. So if I needed help with anything with the kids, we are a great team. And so I try to make it work while at the same time trying to market my books, trying to be able to travel to book signings and make it work. But like, this is what makes me happy. This is literally what's giving me joy to be able to like wake up each morning and just be happy with what I'm doing as a career.
Well, you can see it. You can see it. Like, yes, you get exhausted. I mean, you can see it on your face, but same with me. Like, yes, you get exhausted at the end of the day, but it's like a good exhausted. Whereas like my old careers, it was just like, bad exhaustion, all the
Right.
time versus like the passion exhaustion of this. And you can see it coming off of you when you're talking about your books. But I
Yeah.
also
I think
don't want
it's
to
just from
miss.
deadlines and from like having to get those types of things done, or trying to like not look at reviews if a negative review comes in, but
Mm.
I can choose when to step back. I can choose when you say, okay, I'm not going to write today because I need to take a mental health day and just read a book instead. And that's something that is huge. And I think a lot of authors are going to resonate with that. Like, it's okay to stop and not write for a few days. Our readers will be okay. They understand that they want a quality book that comes out, and I am not going to rush. I mean, I have author friends that write like 5 to 7 books a year. I can't do that, and I'm just like, you're not worthy. Like, I really, I think that's amazing, and I personally just struggle with that just because I do have ADHD, I do have anxiety, I do have 2 children, 4 dogs. I have a lot going on in my head half the time that I can't do it, and that's okay. And that's okay. If I can get 2 a year, then great. I mean, you also have to look, there's cost with it. There's editing, there's proofreading, there's cover design, there's marketing. A book isn't just, I don't put a book out there without doing all of that stuff. And so it does become costly. And I'm okay with 2 books a year. I'm okay with that. I feel like I've got 20 to 30 years ahead of me of writing books. It's okay. I'll just let the
Yeah.
go from the death until those ones are done.
It's not even just for authors though. What you're saying will resonate with any entrepreneur who wears all of the hats, right? Your marketing hat, your, having to run your social media, plus the mom hat, plus the author hat, right? I mean, we have all these hats, and I am so bad about giving myself a break. I'm always like, no, I have to do this. Like it's done. Like I can't take a break, right?
Yeah.
So just that reminder. And I did recently, I'm like, no, I can't anymore. Like I have to take a minute. I have to take a break. And I felt so much better, right? Versus I was like, no, I have to get this stuff done. Well, guess what? I still got it done, but felt better. So
Right. Well, and like
exactly
you
what
were
you're
saying,
saying.
like, if you are not mentally there, if you can't do the quality work that you want to do in your life, and then it's okay to be stressed. Like I, for the longest time, felt that shame of like having anxiety and having to take medication for ADHD and having to do all that. It's okay. We are all there. I would be surprised if there was anyone that didn't have a little bit of, and for us to all understand, like, we don't have to be perfect. We don't have to be a perfect mom. We don't have to be the perfect author out there. And that's okay. Like, it's okay to not be perfect. We're all learning. And if I look back at the debut novel that you read versus what it looks like now, like even the YA version, when I wrote the adult version of that, I went back and saved it and took out the spice. So the one that you read is complete. There's 100 more pages to it. It's completely different. It does not read the same. So if anybody has read the original 2018 one, please go to Amazon.
I'll have to read the new one. Yeah.
It's completely different. And I feel like that's okay. It's okay to go back and rewrite your books. There's no I don't know, there's no script to it. There's no you
There's no
know,
rules.
there's no rules to it. And I think that's amazing. I would love to be able to like read a book that I read years ago, and then the author comes out and says, "Hey, there's some new material in there. There's some new rewrites because I got better at the craft." I'm going to go back and read that because I would love to see that growth and all the new stuff that comes with it. Where when I wrote The Dark Awakening, I just started off, like, I read a lot. I had basic, stuff that I learned from college on writing, but it is nowhere near where I am today. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the growth. And I'm proud to say that's okay that wasn't where I was at. I still put a book out, and I format my own books. I can go back and change whatever I want at literally any time.
But it's really how it should be. It's like in
Yeah.
competition with ourselves, right? We should be
Yeah.
continually improving. We shouldn't be doing the exact same quality of work 20 years into something, right? So that's
Exactly.
exactly how it should be. We should be improving and, like you said, not competing with other people. There's room for everybody, but competing with
Yeah.
ourselves and growing and getting better. And I'm curious, we were talking about wearing all of the hats. So you do like a lot of book signings and events and things like that. Do you have a publicist, or are you doing all of that? Are you setting all of that
I
stuff
do
up?
it all. So
Wow.
I started Fifth Element Publishing. because that all knows one of my favorite movies, and of
Yep.
course,
Lily Multipass.
universal elements. What I have on my, I don't know if you can actually see it. My tattoos are universal elements, and so Propounded Publishing. No, everything is done under that. I originally had created my own LLC for more protection of my books to like publish everything under that.
Right.
I don't know if someday I will have other authors publish under it. I don't know, because I feel like there's a lot of things that I can offer to help help other authors, and I think that there's a lot of publishing companies that take advantage of authors, and I would never charge anyone. I would never do anything but like, hey, do you want to have a name under it, use my LLC? Awesome. I will show you how to publish. I will show you what to do in KDP. I will show you how to do all that stuff. I will refer you to it. I'll refer you to all that. But no, to me, it was, I wanted to do it all on my own. And so I've just made connections with people who put on events. Currently, I'm helping my friend Leslie with Fantastique Collection. She does a lot of fantasy balls, and then they'll have signings before, and I just do the author stuff. So I do all the author vetting. Right now I'm doing 2 events that she's doing, and I'm doing it. I'm just volunteering. Like, I enjoy that part of it. Like, hey, if you need help with the author stuff and you are doing amazing with all the other stuff, let me take that burden off of you. I will connect with other authors, see who wants to do the signing, check their social media, and just make sure that you have an amazing variety of authors that are going to be at your signings. And so, yeah, I enjoy it. I love to be able to travel and kind of get out of the house and meet, other readers from different states. And then the fun balls that after we put a beautiful dress on and sit down with everybody that we meet.
I just started learning about those. Like, there's a big ball coming up here in Colorado too in like October, and I was like, wow, it looks so fun. Like the big
They're
fantasy.
amazing.
I think it's a Gothic one, so of course, right up my alley, right?
Well,
They just
Leslie
look
has
so
one
much
coming up
fun.
next year, so you should definitely. It's going to be in Colorado again. So
Wait,
she's
which
going
one?
to be. So it's the Starfall Ball by Fantastique Collection. So it's
Okay,
going to.
okay.
They're going to be doing it. She's going to be doing it again. I'll find out the date. I think it's going to also be, but she's basically repeating the same, in Colorado. I mean, it's so fun. Like, we have the marketplace,
Yay,
you have vendors,
yes.
so vendors like offers and stuff before, and then you'll get into a beautiful ball gown, and then you just get to dance and stuff,
Which is
and
the best
dinners,
part.
and
Like,
yeah,
as a sewer and just designer in general, I mean, also obviously my custom jewelry, but I could just, the dresses I'm picturing in my head and the jewelry to go with it. Yeah. Yeah. We're like going to jump into the pages of our books, which is a superpower I wish I had, like in the Inkart books. I always wished. I'm like, can't I just read myself into my books? Like, that would be amazing. So that's the next best thing, is going to those events. So, okay. So we're going to have everything about how to reach you and get in touch with you and all of your information in the show notes, but still just share with us, for our listeners who maybe not looking at the notes right now, how do we get in touch with you, find your books, or any of that stuff?
Yes. So all of my books are like Amazon's. All my ebooks are exclusive with Amazon because they're in Kindle Unlimited. But if you were to go to like the Amazon or Barnes and Noble bookstore, Target, Walmart, if you are on their online store, you'll see my paperback. But I have a huge social media presence. So if you reach out through like Instagram, I have a Discord with the Unlock. You could reach out through Facebook. My email address is dlbladebooks@gmail.com. You can message me there. I can give you the temporary link that's up to, I think, 7 days for you to be able to get into our Discord. We have a Facebook group, and then I have my own Facebook group for DL Blade Book Dragons. But yeah, reach out. I'm on TikTok. I don't know. If you go to Linktree, like the Linktree, and then DL Blade, all my social media.
I think I have it.
Yeah, so that will have
Author DL Blade.
it has all of my social media on there. We have signups for ARC readers, for the ones that I am collaborating with CM Lock. Yeah, I love connecting with readers, and the Discord, we're trying to grow that right now. It's pretty new. I don't know what the hell I'm doing on it, but I'm really
well, you'll figure it out.
Yeah. So
you figured everything else out. Well, no, we'll definitely we're gonna have all those links down there for sure. All of our listeners and things we talk about are all in relation to witches, vampires, paranormal, just alternative interests. And of course, who doesn't, I mean, honestly, love reading. I got my 9-year-old a Kindle, and she like never sets it down now. So we're reading family. So um always fun to read some fantasy fiction, and I mean, can't go wrong with a little spice in there, right? So really excited to bring you here, and I can't wait to bring you back and with CM Lock, especially when Shade of a Blood Moon will come out. That would be amazing
Yeah.
because I know that we'll have people that are going to be asking, and I'm so glad that you said, like, as far as like, I was going to ask you for specific advice, but when you said earlier, like, someone just messaged me, like, I'll get on a Zoom, I'll talk to you. Like, well,
Yeah.
I don't need you to offer specific advice because you're going to just do it individually for
Well,
whoever.
and if
So,
you're in the Discord too, like we have like basically open conversations in there. They can ask questions in there. Like that's kind of like our personal room, that and our Facebook group of
nice.
like talking to readers and other authors who have, new authors and stuff. Please join our Discord. Just read on social media. I'll send you a link and we'll connect that way.
Yeah. And anyone who's local, at least to Colorado, when you're
Yeah.
following her media, you'll see her book signings, but you also have ones out of Colorado. So, I mean, even if you don't live in Colorado, listeners, you may have a chance to attend one of her book signings and stuff, or one of the events. So, so cool. Well, thank you so much for being here. We're definitely going to bring
You're
you
awesome.
back
Thank you
with
for
your
having me.
co-author.
Yes.
Um, and we'll get everything in the notes, and then please, everyone, listeners, let's follow, like, subscribe, share, check out the social medias. The more sharing, the more saving, the more subscribing you do, the more awesome guests and more awesome things we can talk about, keep this going. So thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.